You are listening to the Special Needs Children podcast with Chitra Iyer. Chitra Iyer is a parent of 25-year-old Shravan Iyer who has epilepsy, cerebral palsy and autism. She is the CEO of MFA and has been helping families with life-centered planning to reach their personal financial goals. She is also a trustee of a parent support group, the Forum for Autism, which was set up almost 2 decades ago. MFA is an 18-year-old organization in the personal finance space. They have set up a dedicated practice to help families with special needs children to plan their financial goals and invest for them. The thoughts shared here are a result of the discussion with parents, caregivers, siblings, and professionals regarding the planning of a person with special needs.
Hello everyone, a big warm welcome to all of you on this expert series of my podcast for special needs children. Thank you for your time and agreeing to doing this interview with me, Narayan. Hi.
Hi, Chitra. Thank you so much for having me.
Entirely my pleasure, Narayan. To introduce you to all our listeners here, Mr. Narayanan is the CEO of Avaz Inc. Narayanan, an alum of Georgia Tech, Atlanta, and BIT Mesra, has worked with PwC India and web-based startups like Meetup and NextJump in the New York area. In addition to a passion for assistive tech, Narayanan has an abiding interest in finding ways of making the web more relevant, accessible, and inclusive for everyone. Avaz is a picture and text-based communication app to help people with autism communicate about their needs and express their thoughts. After having completed his studies in the US, Narayanan returned to India to build assistive technology products that empower mankind. Children with difficulty in communicating use Avaz to select pictures from a vocabulary of 5,000 plus words, from which the app creates a sentence that is spoken out with a natural sounding voice. Narayan, this sounds so amazing, and I am a proof of how amazing this app is because my son Shravan has been using Avaz for the last 2 years, and I know of many other children who have benefited. And the parents are the ones who are most happy because they've adopted Avaz in their daily life, and I just want you to please share with everyone about your whole story. So my first question coming to you is, Narayan, could you share with us the inspiration behind founding Avaz Inc. and your personal journey towards becoming a leader in assistive communication technology?
Thank you so much for the kind words, Chitra. So I'll kind of go back about almost 17 years now. So I graduated with a computer science degree from BIT Mesra, and I was working at at PwC. And one of the challenges, one of the things was that as a fresh graduate out of college, we were always looking for something interesting and exciting to do, which the job really didn't offer at that point in time. But what the job offered was a flexible work timing. So they gave me a slot which was around 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. So what did I do in the morning? So I just so happened that I was in Bangalore and I lived very close to Spastic Society of Karnataka. And so I started kind of going to that school to just spend some time and volunteer my time there. And by sheer whatever coincidence or the universe conspiring, there was a whole group of volunteers who were kind of helping kids with different kinds of disabilities, learning disabilities, kids with cerebral palsy, kind of build a robot. And being the technology interested person that I kind of quickly jumped into it, and we soon kind of helped a bunch of these kids, mentored them to build out a robot. And I was a part of a big team of volunteers. But what was really insightful from that experience was that how it was my very first time really interacting and spending time close quarters with people with disabilities. And it was really fascinating to me how like sometimes when you don't really know people with disabilities, you're always very tentative as to how you want to kind of connect with them, how do you want to kind of communicate with them. But it was so natural, kind of like talking to them, building relationships, making friendships with them. And that it just blew my mind. And at the same time, the school was importing these high tech technology products for what's called assistive technologies, basically technologies for anyone with a disability, is broadly classified as assistive technologies. So this school was importing it from the US, and a lot of these technology products were really not really tailored for the US market or customized for the US market. So that kind of also piqued my interest, and I started spending some time in that assistive technology lab, looked at different products, saw a lot of exciting things there, that can be very much tailored for our context for for our children here in India. And so that kind of really started my journey into the assistive technology domain. And I went to the US to get a kind of like a get a much more like a deeper dive into assistive technologies, because one of the things in the US was also that the way they looked at assistive technology was almost like it's a must have. It's not a nice to have, it's a must have. So that also changes the way you think about how kind of like you treat people with disabilities, how you kind of think about design for people with disabilities. So that those 2 years in the US education system and working closely with people who built assistive technologies really changed and kind of like shaped my mind as well. And it so happened that after I graduated, I came back to Spastic Society of Karnataka to visit the principal there, Priya ma'am. And Ajit was also there. So Ajit had just started Avaz, and he had built out the first kind of like the hardware product of Avaz. And so we got talking, and I was really, I had built something which was somewhat similar to ours as a project. And then we started talking, and then we kind of, I came on board exactly like a year after we started talking. So I came on board, I quit my job in the US, came back to join Avaz. And at that point in time, what we had kind of built was Ajit and the team had at that point in time looked at how do people in India with speech disabilities communicate. And there was nothing out there, right? So we had to be dependent on like $5,000 to $6,000 worth devices that we were importing, and they would not even be maintained or serviced by people, right? So it was extremely expensive. There was nothing in the market which was affordable and of good quality. So that's what Avaz kind of wanted to kind of solve to begin with, to provide kind of like a way by which people with speech disabilities can communicate. So that's how the kind of like the germ of the idea of Avaz came. And we built out the very initial prototypes of Avaz sitting at Vidyasagar. It's a school based in Chennai, and one of the kind of foremost schools, like schools which kind of talk a lot about assistive technologies, and especially for people with complex disabilities. And they were kind of so kind in helping us iterate on the product, helping us kind of build the product. So Ajit still has the story where we built out this hardware product which was really bulky, and we did all the soldering and all of the components, everything. We built that device and took it to the student Rohit, who was beta testing it. And the very first thing he types out is, "I don't like it." Right?
That's really something.
And we were actually very happy, because up until this point, imagine it was very difficult for him to say kind of no to things, right? Or express his opinion about things. But here, he was able to do that with Avaz. And that is powerful, right? The ability to express what you think and say it in the way you want it to say, and when you want to say it, is so powerful. And we take it for granted when people with speech, we take it for granted. But for kids or people who have speech disabilities, it's not easy. And so him saying, I don't like it, was actually a great stepping stone for us. Okay, chalo, theek hai, this is working. Let's make it better. Now tell me how to
Absolutely.
make it.
You guys must have been so overjoyed with that reaction.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's how we kind of like, that's how we knew we had gotten some of it right. And then obviously over a period of time, getting a lot of feedback from schools, from experts, from parents, we were able to kind of like iterate on it and kind of like make it much better over a period of time as well. Now with ours, like that was a hardware device that could be mounted on wheelchair and all of that. Over a period of time, we also for the ability for building a hardware company is slightly more complicated. Like, but we could see that software is where we can easily scale, and given the kind of the potential of the number of people that we have to impact in India is also huge. Software made a lot of sense. So and at the same time, iPads had just gotten released. So we kind of switched to a model where we started making ours more as an app that can be downloaded from the App Store, Play Store, and then that kind of really opened up the entire kind of market for us. We then started seeing downloads from the US. We started seeing inquiries from Denmark, France, Sweden. All of these parents or organization asking us, "Hey, I saw your app. Do you have a Danish version? Do you have a French version?" Which was very, very, very kind of like interesting and also very heartening that we were actually making an impact where we were not replicating something, but people were actually seeing value in what we built and the problems that we solved with ours. People were actually seeing that kind of go out of the country and kind of like go out in kind of like quote unquote developed countries as well. So that's kind of like where we kind of pivoted in some sense. And then over a period of time when hardware started getting a slightly more affordable, now we kind of also if institutions or people ask us to kind of bundle it with a device, we do that as well. So ours now we can kind of offer the Avaz solution. It can be an app on your phone, it can be an app on your iPad or on your Android tablet. um, and if you want it on a device with some sort of like cover a case, we can do that as well. So it's kind of like come a full circle from there. Yeah, so that's kind of like
That's lovely.
our journey
Yeah.
through these years.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. So, you've been at the forefront. Like you said, there was nothing available, and you guys have produced something so beautiful in this space of assistive communication technology. Could you highlight some of the key features of Avaz? First is, what is Avaz? If you can just share that in your words. I know what it is in my words,
Yeah.
but from the founder, from the whole team that has set this up, I'd like to know.
Yeah.
And all of the advancements in the Avaz products, that have made such a significant impact. Can you please share about these?
Sure. So I'd say Avaz empowers people who can't speak to communicate freely and build meaningful relationships. Right. So that's what we do. Empower people who can't speak, and so that they can build meaningful relationships, be it with family, be it with their loved ones, be it with their colleagues, peers. And the way we do it is by offering a picture and a text-based communication app, which basically you can string up a set of pictures together and it will speak it out in a natural voice as well. And the real kind of like power of Avaz is the fact that it can be completely customized for the person, right? So every person is different. We a lot of times we say every person with a disability is unique. Actually, every person is unique in their own ways, right? So how like the way I have certain kind of likes, dislikes, I have certain interests. A person who communicates using Avaz will also have that. And so one of the kind of like key, I would say, key design features that we built into Avaz, Chitra, really was the ability to customize Avaz as much as possible, right? So can you give the ability for parents who are busy, who have 100 things on their mind, can you give them an easy way to create vocabulary for their children, vocabulary that is interesting to their child, specific to that child, so that they are able to kind of like express what they really like, express what they really want, or completely express completely new ideas as well, right? So I think one of the key features is the ability to really customize it. And when I say customize it, it's more like making it really personal, because voice, vocabulary, like what you want to communicate is so personal. And so that's one of the key things. And what we started seeing um, was that a lot of parents really kind of like enjoyed it. I'll give you a very simple example where this worked. We had a parent. She was telling us about how uh, her child her child woke up at like in the middle of the night, and he was in distress, he was in some sort of pain, and then he kept crying, and they were asking him, okay, what how are you feeling this, what is happening, can you tell me? But the child was in absolute distress and just couldn't communicate. So she pulled out Avaz and gave it to him, and so he goes to the Avaz app, picks up the medicines folder, and taps on a medicine, Alka-Seltzer or something like that. He taps on that medicine. And then that's when the mother realized that, okay, he is having some sort of a stomach pain, and that's why he's asking for Alka-Seltzer. Now, if you see this at the heart of it, it's like, okay, the child communicated something which is like it's simple. But then had she not created a customized it for with all the medicines that the child wants, the child would not have been able to communicate this idea. So the ability to add those vocabularies, make it very specific, very personalized for your child, or is so very critical. And this kind of story really illustrated that point, and really kind of like, for us, while thinking about design, we want to ensure that, you know what, even grandparents want to customize something, they should be able to do it. Like it should be that easy. So that's kind of like one of the key things that we think about while designing the communication product itself. One of the other things that I wanted to kind of highlight that we that I that again a story that I really like is that so the Avaz app also has a keyboard, so people can type out. It's not only pictures, that you can use pictures which can have words and they communicate. You can also use it as a typing tool as well. So there's a lot of people, like one of our users is Aditi, who also writes blogs. So she communicates using the keyboard, using the Avaz keyboard. So you can type out sentences, you can type out your thoughts on the Avaz keyboard. And it so happened that at one of the classrooms, that one of the students was trying to type out the word ocean, and he typed it out as OSHA. So he was pretty much getting there, right? So instead of OCA, he typed it out OCE, he typed it out OSHA. And he was waiting for the predicted words in Avaz to show up. So Avaz shows up these predictions of next words, etc. And nothing came up. And that's when we realized that we needed to add a very kind of like a simple intuitive feature where people who type out using the phonetic, using the sound, they should also that the app should also predict the correct spelling of those words, right? So it's a small tweak, but it's very powerful. So now if the child types ocean as OSHA, they get the prediction as ocean with the picture and the correct word, right? So and then they are able to see, oh, okay, this is the actual spelling. So then they're able to select it, and probably that they do it multiple times, they're able to spell it correctly as well over time. So the reason I again bring this very specific thing up is that uh, there are no really it's not about some of these magical features, right? It's also about how do you continuously think and observe and listen to your customers and kind of like think about how they are using the app, think about how they are um, um, uh, 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 how the app fits into their environment, and then kind of think about how we can kind of improve their experience. So that's one of our kind of learnings over time as well. Yeah, so it's kind of like a long story that I've given you, but I wanted
Very, very interesting, really. And I'm so happy that you shared those examples, because I mean, Aditi is seriously something in terms of,
yeah,
her blogs.
yeah,
And it's so lovely when I've read about her story in Talking Fingers. And
yeah,
it's beautiful how much I think the family only can narrate what it means to them, right?
yeah. It's absolutely fabulous, right? And how it says she's almost uh, it's almost what do you say?
She can express
Almost,
everything in her mind.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's almost opened that bottle sort of
yeah,
thing, right?
completely. Yeah, which
Uh,
otherwise would have been
so
so
powerful.
difficult for her to express. Very, very, very powerful.
Um,
So, Naran, can you please share about some of the challenges that you guys must have encountered along the way while you were developing Avaz, and how finally once it was done, it has addressed most of them.
so one of the challenges I think that we started seeing was that when we rolled out Avas to kind of to school districts in the US, one of the things that we started seeing, Chitra, was that people were starting to use Avas kind of like much more regularly, and kind of they were kind of trying to do different things with ours and integrate that with the child's life and all of that. And when we compared that to India, this was kind of if you look at 2018, 2019, that time, if you compare that to India, the usage was comparatively less. Um, and one of the things was that the problem also lied with how we were kind of looking at this, right? So, like, as when I say we, as in kind of how we were kind of trying to take grow the entire adoption of something like Avaz in India. We were kind of offering just the product, right? So, okay, this is an Avaz product. You can take it, you can use it, and then the child will be able to kind of like express and share their emotions and all of that. And that was a bit of a naive um, assumption in hindsight, right? So because it was also a lot of this is also you need the support of special educators, you need the support of speech therapists, you need the support of the parents, and because they also need to understand what and how to use something like ours, right? And that was something of a realization that dawned on us, and we especially when we compared it as to what was happening in the US, where it would be in a part of a school system where there's a speech therapist or an occupational therapist and a special educator, and they get inserted into the curriculum, and then the usage of Avaz is much higher there. So that kind of dawned on us, and one of the things that we started seeing was that people were installing Avaz, trying it out, but then not continuing to use it, right? So the adoption was kind of getting impacted. And I think that's where we started realizing that we really need to kind of bring in speech therapists, special educators, and even parents, and kind of almost coach them and help them figure out what they can do with Avas, kind of like open up possibilities for them. And because there was a lot that we were able to learn as a team, which we thought would be useful for speech therapists and special educators, so that they can go ahead and implement Avas successfully with with a child, with an adult. And and that's the when we had this realization, that's the time also COVID happened, and we started doing webinars to begin with, and slowly started kind of like spreading awareness about these are the implementation techniques. This is how you can use hours kind of like slowly in your daily life. So with the kind of webinars catching fire during COVID time, we saw a lot of people getting really interested in learning more about Avaz. And so in 2021, we kind of created this entire kind of like a course structure for speech therapists. This was focused on helping them kind of get to know not only Avaz, but like communication itself, AAC, like augmentative and alternative communication, and how they can kind of use in different strategies, different intervention techniques. And so we built out a program which is about uh, 8 to 10 hours over like 4 weekends, comes with quizzes, assignments, and a certificate, all of that. So it's kind of like a full-fledged course for speech therapists, and then we have a special course for specific course for special educators, and then we have a separate course for parents. So I think the challenge that we saw really was that people were trying out Avaz but not continuing to use it. And one of the key reasons was that there were not necessarily professionals or even parents who were really kind of conversant as to what they can do with it. And when we started kind of putting all of this together, we started seeing that most speech therapists kind of got trained in Avaz, and most special educators got trained in Avaz. We automatically saw improvement in how people were using Avaz, how long they were using Avaz, how the kind of impact that they start seeing with the usage of Avaz. And speech therapists would then recommend it to more parents. And so we kind of almost built a very nice community and a very strong community, right? Where you have professionals on one hand who can support with kind of like talking about what is a kind of a good clinical view on a particular challenge. You have parents who will come with a perspective on how do you kind of solve a problem they might have already seen before. So this community that we've been able to build, that is kind of like come through because we were seeing this challenge of Avaz not kind of getting really a lot of adoption early on. And now with this entire community, you can really see the kind of like adoption grow, and more success stories coming out where parents are talking about, hey, my child. So there was this very recent one where the child had never used the word umbrella, but he picked it out and picked it out from Avaz. And that really kind of, the parents was completely surprised. They really didn't know that he could like communicate that word altogether. So we are seeing more and more kind of like such stories come out, and it just really unlocks that sheer potential. So this I think where we were looking at ours being kind of like a technology product company to begin with. Now we kind of see is that it's just not the technology and the product that can really, that's not what is the only thing that can solve the problem, right? So there's solve that challenge. If you really need this entire ecosystem of people working together. So that's why we've kind of built that ecosystem. We built that community where, and so it's almost like an end-to-end solution that we can offer to parents. Hey, you try out Avaz, a child will be able to communicate using this. And then there are speech therapists who can help you out with it. They can kind of work with you. And there could be special educators in your school who can help with you. So that's kind of like how the almost end-to-end solution will work out. And of course, I'm sure you'll also kind of agree because you've been working with one of our speech therapists and with Shravan, and you kind of, that was something that we started a few years back.
I mean, Nivedita is part of our family. Can't think of doing anything without consulting her or Lalita.
Yeah.
Just what an amazing, team of guys you got, really.
Yeah, yeah, and so I think that's kind of like really our perspective change also, wherein we like, and I think this is true for assistive technology in general also, Chitra. I feel that a lot of times people are very eager to build solutions. Oh, they see a problem now, it's very nice. We do that, and there's nothing wrong in it. But the true kind of adoption of such assistive technologies will only happen when you kind of think about it and build it for the entire ecosystem. And that was kind of like a key learning for us as well.
Lovely. When I completely understand where you're coming from because I have a close friend who finds it so difficult to use Avaz all the time. Though, she's very aware that yes, this is the way to go
Yes.
because even her child is an adult. And for all of us, it's almost like, this is the last recourse for us to teach and give our kids a voice, right?
Mm, mm,
So, at my home, every single person who is
mm,
around my son,
mm,
other than us, that is his teachers, his people who are there with him throughout the day, in his vocational center, on the way to the place, on the way back, and then very afterwards at home, every one of us is has to be on ours to ask him the relevant questions, to help him make decisions, to give him options.
mm,
And I think this would have been impossible if it weren't for ours.
mm.
And like you explained, it is purely because of your speech therapist, it's because of your course that you've run. That so many of them are empowered and they're so brilliant at it to coach the parent,
Yeah.
to handhold us. Otherwise, the device as it is, the software
Yeah.
as it is, no, it doesn't work at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
It is a solution, as you said, but for us to actually use it, it's the consumer who has to actually,
Yeah.
find how best I can use this for myself. So yes, I completely agree with all that you shared.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, and again, I think we've had cases where parents have like some parents have taken their own kind of like they want to do it and they kind of take up the course and they kind of do their own uh research and they figure it out. Like there's a parent in Delhi, Vandana, who's been I still remember that I went to do a demo in Noida and her son went to the same school. And then halfway through the demo, I was like, okay, you know what? I think I should just let her speak because she was so fantastic in kind of sharing her knowledge and her experience with other parents. I was like, you know what? This breast that
Yeah. She would have
uh,
already customized it completely to
yeah,
her.
because she
Yeah.
gave so many stories that, and
Yeah.
that's the kind of like the power as well,
I
right?
agree. And hearing one parent hearing from another parent, I think it flies much faster
Yeah.
because they understand where they're coming from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's why I think that this community is so powerful, right? I think
True.
even there are people who are still thinking, wondering. There are people who come to us and we just ask them, you know what, you join the community, you ask the questions. People are there who have a 4-year-old to a 28, 30-year-old. You have all sorts of different kinds of families there. Someone or the other will be able to kind of help you. There are a lot of constructive conversations that come through, and like it's kind of very especially when parents kind of help each other out. It's like, okay, you that's the real kind of like aha moment for us. Like, wow, parents are kind of
Absolutely. Yeah.
um
True. So, yeah, coming to my last question to you, Naran. As a leader in the field, what do you envision for the future of assistive communication technology? And how do you see Avaz contributing completely, to that vision?
mm. um so I think one it's very interesting because one of the I would say one of the kind of real my vision is really a day when someone is in a restaurant and orders like say something, so let's say dosa. I'm in Chennai right now, so let's say orders a dosa in the restaurant using Avaz, and no one finds it odd. No one finds it out of place. That is the kind of like, oh, okay, someone has ordered dosa by saying dosa, but this person has ordered dosas by using the device, and they've just gone on. The waiter has taken the order, and they've just gone on with their lives. Right? It's an image in my head. It's a visual in my head, and I feel that's the kind of like, so what that encapsulates is almost like, okay, there is acceptance to something like assistive communication, to something like Avaz. There is acceptance to that. Potentially, there is enough intelligence in the device that would have prompted the user to just like if they're in a restaurant and it would have automatically shown the menu of the restaurant. All of that is there, but the kind of the real power there is the ability to for the user to say what they want to say when they want to say it, and no one else kind of really like finding it odd. I think that's some sort of like a vision in my head. And while there is some part of it which can be kind of is obviously about awareness, growing, kind of changing mindsets and all of that, which is what a lot of our users, a lot of our families are doing, spreading the word and sharing our kind of like sharing their experience. I think there's also kind of like a huge angle, potential angle for technology to play a role there as well. Because at the kind of scale of um, the country that we are and the kind of professionals that we have in the field and the number of people who need kind of like support and help, it's a huge mismatch, right? So there are in a country like India, the number of say registered speech therapists is around 5,000 or 6,000, whereas the same number in US is around 200,000. So that's like the US is 330 million, India is 1.4 billion. So that's the kind of scale that we are at right now, and so I really think that there is a lot of potential for technology to also help us serve more kind of people, right? So scale this entire thing up. So we're talking today about Avaz being a technology tool that empowers people to communicate and communicate freely. Can you also think about ways in which we can empower parents and empower special educators, empower speech therapists to kind of like being able to service more clients and being able to reach out and support more people? And so that's that is what will solve the problem of the scarcity of these special educators, scarcity of these speech therapists, right? Because that's kind of like that's where technology can play a huge role. So I personally think that uh, a lot of like what people are talking about in terms of AI and things like that, I personally think, at least in the assistive technology space, I think that it is going to make there's no way that we're going to replace humans in this space, right? Because it's such a close, like you really need to understand, and there's a human connection which you cannot replace at this point in time. But you can make that human more efficient with AI, more efficient with a lot of the new technologies that are out there. And that is the real power, right? Like, so today, just a statistic is that one special educator caters to about 150 students. Imagine like that's the kind of like load that they have. Can I provide a kind of like an assistive technology, like a aid or a intelligent agent to them that would make their life easier? Can they that so that they perform like so they become like 1.5 times a special educator, right? So suddenly then it's like 1.5 to 150. It's like the ratio is kind of slightly better off right now. So this kind of, I think there's a huge role that technology will play, and this huge role will be to empower the human, not replace it, but empower them to kind of like be able to kind of have that huge impact. And there are things that we're already working on. And again, if someone from your audience is really interested, we would love to kind of like collaborate on some of those things. But this space is going to be very kind of like will be changed also very dramatically over in the next few years. So, for example, recently, there was no, like if you look at the kind of text to speech, right? So a lot of the speech generation as a innovations that are happening right now, most of the assistive communication products or AAC products use very kind of like dry sounding voices, right? And so last like December, we released a version where it can speak out with emotion. And that's simple, but it's so powerful, right? So when we are happy, we express our happiness. When we are angry, express our anger. But an AAC user, an Avaz user until now, didn't have that ability to do. But with our app right now, they can actually be sarcastic. They can crack a joke. They can sound angry. They can sound nervous. Things like that. That is core to communication, right? How I express is so important. And so those are things that we're already working on. And I think that's just kind of like scratching the surface. There's so much more that we'll be able to build, so much more different ideas that we are also working on. And so it's very exciting to be in this space right now.
Oh, yeah, that was really amazing. Thanks for spelling out what all is coming up interesting in the space. So, folks, that was Mr. Narayanan Ramakrishnan for you. As we conclude today, I definitely want to express my heartfelt gratitude to you, Narayanan, and your entire team at Avaz. Thank you for sharing your entire story on their behalf too, and for the whole thing about that you all chose to set up the company to offer assistive technology in India when nothing was available at all. So stories of how you shared, how people have adopted ours is really beautiful, and how you overcome various challenges in terms of families adopting ours. And of course, COVID helped. Imagine who ever thought that this could happen, but COVID helped in overcoming these challenges. Yeah, definitely. I have attended almost all of those webinars. The training that you have been offering, including the Avaz course, have been very helpful, extremely helpful for the entire community of speech therapists, special educators, professionals, and parents like us. I, for one, keep on sharing in all the groups that I know. Whenever there is a new session by any of your therapists, and you guys have tried to get in roping people from abroad, from here, all of them. It's very interesting to listen to.
Yeah.
How the adoption of Avaz has, therefore shot up also was very insightful to know, considering all the challenges. I genuinely look forward to your dream of how using AAC doesn't feel odd in any situation. Really. And may Avaz continue to empower people who cannot speak and definitely build many more fulfilling relationships. Thank you so much. Thanks a ton.
Thank you, Chitra. So I must definitely also share that this obviously I'm kind of speaking on behalf of my team, and you've kind of worked and kind of know a bunch of them from ours, but this is like where we are today is a lot to do with the kind of like a very passionate and a very kind of like motivated team behind me. Like I'm speaking here, but I'm speaking really on their behalf. And I think since you mentioned COVID kind of really brought us together. The challenge kind of like really brought the team together, and kind of everyone was coming up with different ideas, different kind of solutions. And since then, we've kind of really the sense of purpose, the sense of kind of like motivation to solve a kind of like a problem, but solve it in the right way, solve it in kind of like a way that it can impact many more people is kind of almost built into the team now. So yeah, so I would really want to give kind of full credit there.
Completely, I completely agree with you. I mean, anything to see such a success and to be so compassionate in this space has to have a brilliant team behind. Otherwise, it's not going anywhere. So thank you.
And we are hiring. And you're
hiring. Yes. May you continue to keep hiring always. And yes, we have to reach that 2 lakh target of speech therapists someday in India. So thanks for all of those statistics also.
Thank you so much, Chitra. Yeah, it was wonderful talking to you.
You were listening to the Special Needs Children podcast with Chitra Iyer, the CEO of MFA and a trustee with the Forum for Autism. If you find this podcast relevant and interesting, it will be great if you leave a review, share, like, and subscribe. You can also let us know if there is any specific topic that you would like us to cover. Feel free to email her on chitra.iyer@myfinad.com, or you can call her on 9833-785-892. That is 9833-785-892.